The northwestern Caribbean and the eastern Gulf Coast of the United States should be on alert. Good Monday morning. I'm Mike Naso with this Monday morning tropical video update. And when we take a look at the Atlantic Basin, we have a couple of features. And I'm going to start on the left side of your screen. Over near Mexico, there is a tropical storm. This is Tropical Storm John. This is actually over on the Pacific side. And it is forecast to be very close to a hurricane strength when it makes landfall on the Mexican coastline near the Gulf of Tehuantepec. Now, that is all part of this Central American gyre that's spinning around here, that's spitting off low pressure areas, because the second low pressure area is this one right here in the Caribbean Sea. This is Invest 97L. And it is very likely that this is going to develop and move towards areas of Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula, and then the eastern Gulf of Mexico, potentially making a landfall in the United States, in particular near the Florida Panhandle, sometime by the end of this week. And it could be a hurricane, and potentially a dangerous one, maybe even a major hurricane. We're going to talk about that for most of this update. We also have a wave that's just sputtered off the coast of Africa here, and this is a high chance for development as it should move west-northwest over open water the next couple of days. Now, here's the latest from the National Hurricane Center. As of very early Monday morning, we have our two systems. The first one here is a 90% chance of development, and this is the area I'm talking about. Showers, thunderstorms beginning to show organization with a broad area of low pressure over the Caribbean Sea. Environmental conditions appear favorable for further development. We will likely see a tropical depression or a tropical storm form the next couple of days. That is 90% over the next week. And this is 70% chance over the next week. A tropical wave that is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorm activity. So like I mentioned, these are our two systems, but the one of most concern is the one closest to land. Now, when we look at the infrared satellite imagery, this is very, very common in early developing low pressure areas to where you're going, well, there's the center right there, Mike, it's spinning. Maybe not. It might not be down to the surface yet. A tropical cyclone is when you have the storms wrapped around a low-level surface circulation. It's at the surface of the ocean, at the surface of the ground. That's why when a hurricane hits, the winds are blowing you away at the surface. So this could be a mid-level spin, kind of in different areas there of the atmosphere, but nevertheless, the fact that it's blowing up convections and thunderstorm activity, and it is strengthening into a more robust tropical system, it is a very high likelihood for development. Now, this should move towards the northwest the next 12 to 24 hours, and when we look at these computer models, this is not good. They take the system to the northwest, kind of right through the Yucatan Channel, between Cancun and western Cuba. So not even impacting land, staying over water where it can strengthen. And the models all want to take it towards areas there of the Florida Panhandle to the Big Bend region. Most of them seem to want to take it more towards the Panhandle, Apalachicola, that area there. And look at these forecast intensities: Category 4, Category 3, Category 4, Category 4. Those are very, very dangerous major hurricanes. Now, again, we don't have a designated tropical depression or a tropical storm yet, but this is concerning. Here's a look at the intensity guidance. This is a Category 2 hurricane, 3 hurricane, 4 hurricane, a 5 hurricane, and almost all of the intensity guidance takes this puppy way up there towards Category 3 or 4. That is not good news at all. So the general thinking is northwest, then north, and then kind of sliding here into the Florida Panhandle or the Big Bend. But because we don't have that pinpointed center of circulation yet, it's very, very difficult to obviously determine an exact landfall point later this week or an exact intensity at landfall. But this should be concerning, that if you are in Tampa, Steinhatchee, Apalachicola, even back towards Pensacola, everybody there, look at your hurricane plan, where you would go if evacuations were ordered, because I'm telling you, if it's anything like this intensity, there are going to be a lot of evacuations. Here's the GFS ensembles as of 0Z early on Monday. Again, some of them are a little further west. You're going, Mike, look, this is New Orleans. Yeah, you'll always get, the plate of spaghetti. There's always going to be a couple of strands trying to hang off the plate. But you look at where they're mostly clustered, and that seems to be, like I said, the Florida Panhandle, all the way back to the Florida Big Bend. So again, Appalachia Bay, this area here, Apalachicola, very, very troubling. Here's one of the operational hurricane models, and I wanted to show you this. This is a simulation of what it is predicting the satellite to look like. So right now it looks like it does. But as I put this into motion, watch what happens the next couple of days. This is in about 36 hours. 2 days from now. 72 hours. Monster hurricane in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. And then obviously it makes landfall there right along the area of the Florida Panhandle in about 90 hours as a very dangerous major hurricane, Category 3 or a 4. So, is that possible? It's possible. Right now, the wind shear is low over the Gulf of Mexico, and it seems to be building an anti-cyclone high pressure aloft over the top of itself, which is kind of like a safe harbor for strengthening. And that's easier to see on this map, where you have the blues and the blacks. That's very favorable wind shear, and it's developing that favorable wind shear right over the top of it, and it will head into an area of very favorable wind shear. And if it interacts with the trough over the central United States, sometimes they could even intensify, and that would be troubling as well. So the key messages with this system as of early Monday morning, I want to just reiterate, this is probably going to be designated as a potential tropical cyclone sometime Monday afternoon or Monday night. Maybe not until Tuesday, but I think the reason they're going to do that is because they're going to want to pull the trigger on watches and warnings, because it looks like we're getting within the time frame to where we need to issue some sort of watches for areas of western Cuba and the Yucatan. So number one, interest in northwestern Caribbean, Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, western Cuba. You should closely monitor the progress of the system. And secondly, the system is forecast to strengthen while moving northward over the Gulf of Mexico, bringing potential for impacts from storm surge, heavy rainfall, and strong winds to portions of the northern and northeastern Gulf Coast, including the Florida Panhandle and portions of the Florida West Coast later this week. Although it is too soon to specify the exact location and magnitude, residents in these areas should monitor the latest forecast updates and ensure that they have their hurricane plan in place. Again, this sort of wordiness from the National Hurricane Center for a system that isn't even a tropical depression yet is troubling. And there's a reason for that, and I showed that to you with the models. This could be a very serious hurricane for the United States. So what would we name it? Well, the hurricane name list this year, we've gone through Alberto, Beryl, Chris, Debbie, Ernesto, Francine, and we had pitiful little Gordon out there. The next name is Helene. And so we will wait and see if Helene is going to be this system. After that, Isaac, Joyce, and Kirk is going to be on this year's name list. Off the coast of Africa, we have this tropical wave. It doesn't look like much now, but that could develop as it moves west-northwest. Probably won't get towards land, but still something to watch. In the eastern Pacific, we do have Tropical Storm John at 14.4 north, 98.5 west, winds of 45 miles per hour. It's drifting north-northeast at 3. There was some indication that it might try and form an eye. It's expected to be just below hurricane strength, and it should come ashore sometime Tuesday night or Wednesday, bringing the threat of very, very heavy rainfall. There's the satellite. And this is all part of that Central American gyre, where you get this area of disturbed low pressure, and it spits off John in the Pacific and potentially Helene in the Atlantic. And it's just a lot of troubled weather down there, but this does look impressive. It's blowing up there, and that means the risk for heavy rain and flooding. Look at this rainfall, 25 inches or more in areas there near the Gulf of Tehuantepec in Mexico. So again, very, very dangerous flood threat from this system as it moves on through. But for the Atlantic, We're going to continue to watch our system here in the Caribbean. It is not a tropical depression or a storm yet, but the chances are pretty high that this is going to become a tropical depression, a tropical storm, probably a hurricane, and quite possibly a dangerous major hurricane. If you are in the Northwest Caribbean, the Yucatan, Cancun, Western Cuba, the Cayman Islands, and especially Florida, the Florida Panhandle, if you're in a place like, say, Panama City, I really want you to keep an eye on the tropics this week because this could get cooking. I'm Mike Nasel with this Monday morning update on the tropics. I'll talk to you next time, and I'll keep you tuned in on this system.